and I have 12 years of college, so I went a lot to school, and I never heard anything of the teachings. I went to
didn't.
Summit
School.
University, two quarters at Summit. That was the first time and the only place I ever heard the teaching being delivered in a classroom setting or in a newsworthy setting. And, I'm sure this was true with Lotus and Godfrey in the I Am movement. I wasn't aware of it. Even though Lotus, I was alive when Lotus was on the planet, but I wasn't aware of her.
Yeah, I wasn't either.
So I assume, because this is what I was told to assume, is that if nobody else is doing, I assume I'm the only one doing it because I assume the responsibility for doing it, just as you do. You assume the responsibility for what you're hearing and saying, okay, I'm here to do this work. Nobody ever slaps you on the back for this kind of work. It isn't that kind of a deal. And you go ahead and do it. So I was told to come here, and I wasn't told why. Not specifically, other than El Moria said to me, oddly enough, it seems like El Moria is one that tells me a lot of these things.
Yeah.
He said, you will be able to do in Sedona what you've been trying to do in Washington State. And I was a teacher up there. I was a musician all my life, and then in my toward the end of doing professional music for a living, I got the information that I was supposed to go back and finish my degrees. So I went back, and my family were all teachers. So I went back. I thought, this is very practical.
Yeah, my parents were teachers. I started out as a teacher.
I thought, this is very practical. I can, even when times are tough, I'll still earn a living. So I did it pragmatically rather than realizing that it was actually for Cthulhu and for the Office of the World Teacher and that whole entourage of ascended masters. I thought I was doing it for me, of course, because it made sense for me to stay in the physical embodiment. I need to make a living, and as does everyone. So I went back to school and I studied. I got my teaching certificate, and then I went on to get my master's and my doctorate. And this was all part of a plan. Had very little to do with me teaching in schools, as it was. But I needed to see what was happening in schools. So I taught grade school, high school, and I saw. And in 4 years of teaching in a private school and 1 year of subbing in public schools, I saw all I needed to see, evidently.
You would see all you need to see.
Well, I
Think
saw.
much.
It wasn't much. It was a lot different than what my mother experienced. But I realized that I had a pretty good sense of what was going on in schools. And I unfortunately, or fortunately, however the case may be, made a call one summer. I said, this isn't working for me. I come in from, I'd come to class at Summit. I'd go to the July conference. I'd be way up here. And I'd go back to school to teach in September, and by Christmas I'm way down here. Just dealing with the bureaucracy. It wasn't the kids, it wasn't the parents.
No, that's right.
It was the attitude and what schools were going for.
That's right.
And I got so down, I realized it after 4 years of this roller coaster ride. I realized, I'm in the summer I go back to school and I'm way up here in thinking, and by the time I get to Christmas and we have Christmas break, I'm down here. And after 4 years of watching that kind of unconsciously, consciously, I said, this isn't really working for me. That was a dangerous thing to say. I didn't even get through September that next year. I was fired. It was the only job I was ever fired from. And because our school suddenly changed headmasters. I was on the hiring committee, and I never even met this man. They just automatically, arbitrarily changed. The old headmaster my wife used to cut his hair. I mean, we were like, they'd come over for dinner, we were close. This was the problem. They didn't, the new headmaster thought, I'm getting rid of everybody who was friendly with the old headmaster. And as it turns out, this was a prep school, and it was the prep school for hundreds of miles. Their policy was more interested in girls' basketball than academics. And this headmaster that I was friends with was more interested in academics. He said, let's make this the #1 academic place. The new headmaster was all in favor of girls' basketball, which was, you know, the in thing.